Hello and welcome or welcome back to Talking About Cross Stitch with the Stitching Owl. We are now at June 7th. 2024 is flying by. It's hard to believe we are already here, but I am thankful that we are finally to the warm weather. Sometimes weather where people in my neighborhood are saying, whoa, it's too hot and muggy, and I'm going, oh no, it's perfect. I tend to be cold, so I truly appreciate this time of year. Thank you for giving me something as precious as your time. If it's your first time coming, I hope you'll stick around and see my projects and other efforts, and I hope you'll be comfortable in hitting like and subscribe. If you're returning, thank you. You are precious to me. You, as a group, I think I've got the best set of subscribers. You give me such wonderful messages to read throughout the couple of weeks after my video has uploaded. I have some people who are actually going all the way back to video number 1 and going through all of them. Thank you so much for doing that. I truly appreciate that. We have a wonderful situation. I thank you for being patient. I did not video at the quote-unquote correct day. I normally video every second Sunday, but this past weekend I was actually away for a 4-day weekend with my husband on Pelee Island, where they are in the process of trying to sort out the internet. The Pelee Island is actually in the middle of water, and you can see Canada and the United States. I believe it's Ohio and Ontario, so 2 O's, when you're on the water. And there's 2 towers for our cell phones, so we have to be pretty careful not to get roaming charges. We stay off the internet, in part because of the tower challenge, but also because it's our time to step back from the electronics and just relax. So I wasn't actually at home at my normal time. On this past Wednesday, 2 days ago, I did video a short video because I was excited to show you my fully finished Garden of Zig, as well as announce 2 stitch-alongs, the 12 Days of Christmas Stockings stitch-along, or I'm also going to say that my first thought was the 12 Days of Stocking Sal. So I'm going to put it out there that there's 2 names, either the 12 Days of Christmas Stocking Sal or the 12 Days of Stocking Sal. I would love for you to check out that short video because I am joined by wonderful people in this. Dottie, the Stitching Scotty, has spent time with me through emails to try and set this up. And we also have some wonderful people joining in, such as Annie, the Proper Stitcher, Kathy Walker of 2 Needles Pulling Thread, Jenny and Nancy of the Bougie Stitchers, and I'm hoping that more of you will join in. So just as an aside, I'm sort of starting with finishes right here. This is the book that we are using. It's from the Annie Beez Folk Art publication. It started as a month-by-month stitch-along that she did, and it was so popular she printed this as a book, and it was a Nashville release. There are, of course, surprise, surprise, 12 days for us to stitch, and you can see that we are on black. It could be either Ada, because this is full cross stitches, or Lugana. Now, I happen to be someone, if you've been with me before, that feels completely comfortable changing things up. And thank you, Kim. I do Kim it up. Kim is, of course, the contented needle worker. So what I showed on Wednesday was this version showing that you could use blue. And yesterday I did an example on white. Now, when you look at this, you'll also see that this one is not the same count as this. While the book is suggesting that 14 count would be ideal, I personally think if you want to go smaller, you can go smaller. This one is a 32 count. I think I called it cobalt blue, and it's azure when I look at the tag that's on the original snip of material. I only have a little bit left after cutting it up. So this 32 count equals 16 in Ada. And this one is a 36 count Zweigart opalescent Belfast linen. And that 36 count is like 18. So I've got two versions here. You'll notice that I used two different colorways. This one is using 2 strands of DMC. This one is using 1 strand of sulky thread. Now, the way Annie has this originally charted, there is beading. And you know that I will do beading happily. But I also want you to know that you don't have to. On this one, I've used a smeared across for those spots that had the beads. And on this one, I used French knots, and I do think some of you are going to go, French knots isn't better than beading. I usually change French knots to beading. That's fine. But there are some people that like to do French knots, and it works out beautifully. When I did this with sulky thread, I did a 3 wrap of the needle in order to get the poof. I don't know whether you can see, oh yes, you can see the dimension right there, that it comes off of the material nicely. For further information about that, I would love for you to visit my Wednesday, June the 5th video. So I had a new finish by doing this again. And what you're going to find is I am leaving the 14 count black stitching to others that are stitching along like Annie and Dottie. I am going to do a 20 count as well. So you're going to see 3 sets of the 12 days of Christmas. I have a past student who is getting married, and I am going to do a set of these for their first Christmas as her wedding gift. So I did want to keep one for myself, and you know what? Having an extra set to give away is always fun. So that is one of the stitch alongs I mentioned. And then the other stitch along is the Dreamer, which is going to be starting on June the 15th. And by Dreamer, I am talking about this by the Artsy Housewife. And I'm delighted to be stitching this with Connie and Kim, the Contented Needleworker Kim. Further details are in my June 5th video. And now back to regular programming. Do I have any fully finishes? Well, yes. As I said, I was away this past weekend, and it covered the change of calendar from May to June, and the ATC cards for Laura Stitching by the Shore were due, as well as the swap items that are within the group that are delightfully gathering on the Zooms of Stitching with Sandi. So I was actually a little bit smarter this time, good for an owl. What I did was just before I sent these off, I made a video to show you what my fully finished items were. Hello, this is Karen the Stitching Owl. I'm going to be away this weekend and cannot attend the Zoom that is for the release of what we did with the Garden of Zig patterns by Ink Circles. So this is my video explaining what my approach was. I used 20 count mushroom lagana even weave, and then I did it 1/1 with silky 12 weight thread, so I only needed one strand, and I took the top 2 rows in their entirety, omitting just the occasional little motif. I kimmed it up, and then I added one of the motifs from the bottom row to make it into a drum. So this would be where the pattern would start. And you can see that I did a row of beads at the bottom, a row of beads at the top, and I went around, and then this is the one I added from the bottom so that it came together nicely configured. I have a polka dot bottom and a polka dot top with 10 layers of batting to create that sense of poof for the look of being able to put counting pins in. I haven't chosen which pins to put in yet, but there we have it. My Garden of Zig by Ink Circles, completed as a drum. So I'm going to insert that here. And hello, it is officially May the 28th, and I was about to make a big mistake. I was getting all of my envelopes together to send out for my swaps, and I was about to seal up the first one when I realized that I hadn't made a video. So I'm going to show you right now. The first thing that I am swapping is ATC cards. And what I have offered to Laura is that she can pick one to set aside in case somebody actually ends up with something lost, and trade the other one, that I'm okay if I only end up with one ATC card. So you can see that what I did here was use the Jardin Prive summer gnomes, and we have a little wagon with posies and a tree with mushroom and butterfly over here. So they are just meant to be lighthearted, and they are on a 32 count Lugana. I am using DMC thread, 2 strands over 2. So that was the ATC swap. Now I am also doing an across the pond swap, and I'm not going to say who my across the ponder is. I don't know that they watch this, but you know. So what I did here was make a long ornament that could actually be a wall hanging. You can see that I've got the 3 different sizes of ornaments. These are all taken from the same Quaker of Rosewood Manor's 1 dozen Quakers, and this is of course part of the Bake Me a Quaker Sal that Sheila and EJ are running from the Sunshine Stitchers. So that is what I came up with. Purple was one of the colors that was something that this particular person enjoys, and one of the goodies that I am sending is going to be some Brin and Needle floss. So it's special floss, and I think that it's kind of nice to send people things that are from Canada, because this is Brin and Needle out east Canada. And now the last swap I'm doing is this swap with Sandi. The 2nd and 4th Sunday of each month, Sandi of Stitching with Sandi, Sandi, Sandi runs a Zoom that we can drop in, and we sort of stitch and chat for about 4 hours. And I really do say thank you to Sandi for giving of your time. We appreciate it. So she does run a swap out of the people that gather and anybody else that wants to do the swap. And this time I actually had the privilege and challenge of Sandi herself. So Sandi, if you are watching this and you do not have your package yet, please fast forward by at least 5 minutes so you can't see. So for Sandi, I actually did a matching pair. These are little seasonal globes by Tiny Modernist, and we have spring and summer. Our theme was summer, and I wanted to make sure that the summer theme had a wee crow on it, and indeed it does. So these are on a 32 count Lugana with 2 strands of DMC thread again. I was not necessarily using the exact scheme that the Tiny Modernist chart said, but that's okay. I like to kim things up a bit. And with that, I'm also enclosing some Brennan needle floss as well. And back to regular programming. And I got one other fully finished item done. It was for my daughter. And here we have a very happy Corgi. This is a La Selva design off of Etsy. And on the back, I just have this zigzaggy, well, quilt material, to be honest. And it's just finished in a round. I literally, when I'm dealing with these, I go through the glasses in my kitchen and I see which one will be the right amount of negative space around my stitch that allows for the addition of the 2024 charm and a bit of space to allow the stitch to shine. So those were my fully finishes during the period of time that I was marking, and yes, the marking is complete and back to Toronto. I did not have to take it to Pelee Island. That was my goal. During the marking, I really, for the first time, just did no stitching. If I had a moment to devote to my craft, I did the fully finishing so that I would be on time with all of my swap items, and I was happy to do that. I admit that it has been unusual not to be working on my owl on a daily basis. It will resume tonight. So that is all my fully finishes. Did I have any finishes? And the answer to that is I had a start and finish. So at the recent Stitch North, on the probably the last day or the second last day, there was a freebie table where you could pop your patterns and share them with others. Delightfully, Lisa, the Forest City Stitcher, got there really quick. She noticed what was going on. It wasn't close to us. We were on the exact opposite side of the room. And she grabbed a Tiny Modernist pattern, popped back and said, I think this was meant for you. And Lisa, thank you, because I was able to do it in its entirety. So this is called Up All Night. You can see that she's included the different ideas with regards to stitching, but also an owl, which is perfect for me. A little clock that says 3 a.m. And yes, I am often stitching at 3 a.m. So this has been stitched on 20 count Ada Purple Haze. I think it's a Zweigart because the original had a little bit of that orange stripe on the side. It was all done with one strand of DMC. So I just grabbed out a bunch of different, well, I took a box of DMC with me to Peely Island. And sometimes I did not have the right color, but I had things that were close. So for those of you that don't like to do borders, this border worked. It was dainty and just worked up very quickly. I was actually able to do this border on the ferry, which is about a 90-minute ride. And that ferry ride went very quickly because I was stitching this time. Yes. So that was fun. And I think that's it for finishes. Yes. Okay. So then that takes us into WIPs, which is works in progress. And I'm going to go back and forth between WIPs and other announcements as we go. So let me see, where did I put everything? Okay, so one of the things that I wanted to do in May and June was to get my WIP count down a bit, even though many of you would think my WIP count is quite modest because it's always under 20. But I knew that I am somebody that embraces Jolly July wholeheartedly, and I do a lot of Christmas stitching, and I actually prepare for Jolly July by stitching Christmas in June, which is what you have seen with those Christmas stockings. My goal with the Christmas stockings is to do 2 a month, so they're finished for Christmas. One of the pieces that I was working towards a finish but didn't quite get there was the Artsy Housewife's Oona Owl. The last time you saw this, I had completed the little owl and these flowers. Since then, I finished the border, these flowers, and then I have the medallions. There is more stitches to go into these medallions to finish this off, and there is a few white flowers to go through. I have my fingers crossed that I will be able to totally finish this for our next time together. So 20 count Ada, and this is a mint green. Yes. And it is a fiber on the whim. It's a very nice weight of 20 count. I actually really like 20 count fiber on a whim. Sometimes it's actually quite difficult to get your hands on delightfully dyed 20 count Ada. So when I can find it, I grab it. Now, another one that I was trying to work on, and you will all remember that I was working with Amy of Renewing Stitches on the hashtag, do you want to stitch a songbird? And I had chosen this particular one with the blue jay. And it is a Cottage Garden Samplings design, of course. And it's a number 7 in a series of 12. There was a year that a new one came out each month. I have purchased other ones. Now, I started this on a larger count and then went, no, I don't enjoy this. So I set the larger count aside and went to 20 count, and then decided I was going to kim it up and rearrange what was going on. So it is not completely finished yet, but I have it well on the way. I'm going to do a little bit more with this leaf. I'm going to put a ladybug up here. I think a little splash of red would be appropriate here. And this leaf either might come here or it might come over here to just make it so this negative space has a reason for being, and a little bit more green here, I suspect. So I'm literally down to the black and red for the ladybug and 3 shades of green to finish this off. And for those of you who've been with me, I finally cut the material, didn't I? So I have enjoyed this on the 20 count. I have to admit that in the last few days as I stitched on this, I'm like, I wonder what these birds would be like if I went to 25 count. So we'll have to see what I do next, but I don't think I'll be starting another bird in June or July. My goal is to finish this one. So that's whip number 1 and whip number 2. Now, just while I'm talking about whips, I'm going to do a shout out for the Lancashire Stitcher who, hang on, let me just make sure I've got all of my information right. Nope, the Cheshire Stitcher. I knew it felt wrong. I actually watched them both. So the Cheshire Stitcher has 17 videos. Her name is Lindsay, and she is just a lovely presenter who does focus on cross stitch but has other stitchy talents that occasionally arise. One of the things that I just found so enjoyable about her is that she doesn't call her whips works in progress. She calls them PhDs. And now some of you are going to go, yes, projects half done. And I'm going, well, no, that's not what her PhD means. Potential happy dances. And I'm like, oh, that is so good. Because when we are doing these, we don't know when we're going to finish, and sometimes we don't know if we're going to finish. But if we do, it will be a potential happy dance. So I thought that that was brilliant, and I just wanted to bring the Cheshire Stitcher, who of course has a lovely accent from across the pond, to your attention. Now, if I continue with my whips, let's see. Okay, I'll find the correct whips. So one of the whips that you have not seen for a while is a dragon that I started when I thought, oh, Laura has 2 dragons going for the year of the dragon. So why shouldn't the owl do this? And then I started the second one and discovered that I had a lot of stuff going on. And so for the most part, he's been set aside. But I don't have a cover picture here. It came to me from Artsy, from JP Cross Stitch Pattern, just as the pattern without a cover. This is where I am now. And if you're thinking I've done well and I'm done, why no, no, no. These are not wings. These are the cheeks. The eyes are going to be here, and there's going to be more head up here. This is just the nose that I have done. This is on, I believe, a 32 count linen by Roxy Floss Co., which is, you can purchase at Evertote. And this is the color Billie Jean. So I suspect I'll be able to just sort of chip away at 1 or 2 strands of black. So if I said it was monochromatic, I'm going to have to correct myself and say I was not right. It's almost monochromatic. And you'll see what I mean next time when I put in the eyes. So I'm pleased to have that back out, and I think I will be able to get that finished over the next 6 to 8 weeks. Okay. The last time we were together, I was hesitant to show you my Canadian flag, which I am doing. The pattern is by Vivian Powers of Vivsters on Artsy, and she has provided the world with many, many flags to do that are Quaker flags. So we have all of these Quaker squares put on point that we do, and then she colors them to the different flags. Last time I hadn't put in 100 stitches on this because of my marking. This time I have enough progress to show it to you again. So here we are. The reason this is a straight line here is that this is where the next color starts. And I want to go to Stitch It Central and make sure I've got enough of the gray that I want to do the intersection. So I did both of these halves, and I also did this whole Quaker. So I did the equivalent of 2 Quakers, but it was 1 plus 2 halves. So I continue to be thrilled with this. This is the full length, but the width is going to definitely be longer. I am stitching this on what they called a 35 count opalescent Belfast linen. And to be honest, it looks an awful lot like the linen that I have for my 36 count stockings, but it isn't the same piece. My sister-in-law had purchased this piece of Zweigart, and she said, I don't know why I purchased it. I don't do that high of a count. So I was like, oh, no, that can be used. And so I cut that particular fat quarter up into 12 pieces for that project. I will have enough of this piece left over to do a second flag for my youngest. So when I get this done, I will immediately turn around and start the next flag. And you're thinking, oh my. Carolyn Zook actually has 3 flag patterns, and she was amazed to discover that some of these Quakers actually have 600 stitches in them. It depends how much white space is in them, but some of them that are mostly red with just single patches of white from the back showing through are very stitch heavy. But I really am loving doing this, and I can say that if you would like to see somebody else, I'm using sulky thread with this. So a single strand on my 36 count. Deanne of Stitching on the Rock is doing hers a little bit differently than mine, so it's kind of neat to actually see somebody else do something else. And of course, Laura, who lives in Delaware, is doing the American flag. Many other flags are being done, so keep an eye open for this wonderful project that is, it's gone worldwide. Now, if we continue with my works in progress, the next one will not be a surprise to you. It is my Dragon Keeping Time, which is a pattern on Cute Patterns by Maria, which is an Etsy shop. And I have truly enjoyed doing this. My hope was to actually be finished by the end of May, and of course when I said that, I forgot all about my contract to do the 3-hour exams that I marked. I am at 89% now and have run out of one of the colors I need. So I need to make sure that I get to my L&S so that I can continue the next color up in this. And you can see that this particular wing is going to come down to here. All of this is finished. I will check out, I have put this pattern not only into Pattern Keeper, which it did work out really, really well, but I used Knit Companion and just popped the PDF into there so that I can assess the backstitching that has been suggested and figure out, am I including any, some, or all of the backstitching. At this point, I'm thrilled with this. The pattern is exquisite. This house that's upside down, and it looks like there's a sand castle in here. These just glow, but it's just purely DMC. There's a town hidden in the wings up here, little houses. There is so much in this. I'm doing this on 32 count Rumbling Thunder by Pell Stitches, which is from the UK. My local LNS brings in a fair amount of materials from Pell Stitches, and I have found it to be a wonderful weight. And like when you look at this, you can't tell that I have not ironed this. It just is so lovely to work on and so forgiving, because I use a hoop with absolutely everything. And I use a small hoop and just move it around. So I am at this point 12,707 stitches, and am hoping that I will be continuing on my path to having it finished. Will it be done for the next one? I'm not sure, because I am planning to record a week from Sunday, so that only gives me like 9 days, and I'm not going to make promises that might not be able to be kept. Now, another work in progress or potential happy dance is the Sal that I am doing. Laura of La La D Stitches. Oops, this is not the one I was thinking. Whoa. I almost pulled out the Oona Owl pattern. So Laura and I have both started in Praise of Pollinators by Janine, who is the blue flower, Janine McGowan. And this is it. So when I went away, I took my colors for it. While I was in Peely, I had one day that I gave to Oona, one day that I gave to my pollinators, one day to my Up All Night by Tiny Modernist, which was that already finished one, start and finish, and then one day to the Stocking by Annie B's Folk Art. So that got me back on track to stitching after doing the heavy marking. So the hashtag Pollinator Sal is Laura's hashtag for how she has divided up the pattern into sections so you can do it over a period of months. Again, I'm going to say I'm going to make sure that I link to her video that is at the end of May, where she shows what the June section is and then explains what is happening and why the animals that are on this picture are considered pollinators. She's doing wonderful work. Now, let's see what I have done. So I am doing this on 20 count Aida that's called Parchment, and is fiber on a whim. So here we go. Oop. It fell off of its mooring, so I'm just going to reclip this. There we go. So what you're going to notice, I had a happenstance. I took my pattern and everything, but I thought, oh, I don't need to take the outer picture. I'm going to leave it at home and make sure I don't lose anything. But the outer picture is the one that has on the back all of the color key. So I got there and went, oh, shoot. Now what do I do? Because I want to stitch on this for sure to have something to show you. And then I went, oh, right. I actually know some of the colors based on what I've already done. So while I was there, I knew what color this was, and I did all of this cactus and simply left the openings for the different flowers. I also knew all about 838, and I finished putting in the skeletal part, the veining of the butterflies, and then when I got home, I have finished filling this in. Now, this butterfly is an awesome butterfly, but it should not be taken lightly. I was in the middle of doing it and thought, whoa, there must be 1,000 stitches in this. I was wrong. There was 2,046. I counted, yes, I did. I was curious. So this butterfly takes a while to do. I didn't check out how many stitches were in the cactus at that point. These little flowers here, I think they're called Aeolia, and that this year, last fall, I planted 2 bulbs, and the bulbs are massive. They're as big as my fist. And I'm going to insert a picture of my version of this. It's just gorgeous. And the stem is like over 3 feet tall. You could almost see it growing. It was absolutely fun. And these are so much fun to do. I also put in these 2, which I believe are Queen Anne's lace. And I finished this set of flowers here. I'm still in need of going back to finish this particular animal. It's got to be some sort of bird or butterfly. I'll have to look and see. And then I have to do this part that so many of you have already finished. So on this one, I sort of did Laura's, let's jump around and do what I could figure out for the coloring. And then once I was there, just finish a bit so that I know what the parameters are for the whole stitch, and will be able to soon cut this fabric too. Yes, I could do the bit where you measure, what an idea, and then start from an already cut piece. When I do that, I start in the center, and that way it's centered on that piece of material 100%. I did not want to start in the center. So therefore, I started up by the bat in this right-hand corner and have worked to my left. So there'll be, the border here will come down over here. So I've almost got the width here. And down here, there's a little bit more to go. We've got a lemur that's going to be in here and a bug, and then this will go across about here. So I have almost set the parameters of this stitch. Again, I'm using the DMC key and 1 strand because I'm on 20. And I'll just invite you that if you are doing this particular pattern, if you did not see my last Flosstube, not the one from Wednesday that was, for me, a quickie because it was only 15 or 16 minutes, but my previous one, which was probably number 21, I believe. I might be off on that number because it explains about an error that is on the pattern if you bought it as a Nashville release. Okay, let's stop and do another shout out. I would like to shout out, I've got notes on a board and I've got many layers. Okay, I think the next one I'm going to shout out is the rocking chair stitcher. I have watched every one of her videos. There's about a dozen. Sarah happens to be a fellow Canadian. She's a young mom and she's just a delightful presenter. But she's also a designer with an Etsy shop, so I encourage you to look that up. On one of her recent, it might even have been the last episode that she posted, she made a comment that absolutely resonated with me, and I wrote to her and said, you know how to make patterns. If you make that particular statement into a pattern, I would stitch the model for you happily. Her basic sentence was this: patience. It is waiting with love. Is that not beautiful? Waiting with love. That is exactly what patience is. So I would love to be able to show you that I'm working on a pattern like that. So Sarah, I'm hoping. And Sarah is actually going to be moving. She lives out east in Canada right now, and she's going to be coming to Ontario. They don't quite know exactly where, but one of their options is St. Thomas, which is only like hopping on Highbury Avenue, which is not very many minutes from me. and driving for about half an hour from me. So that's where my vote is, because I think it would be lovely to meet her in person and introduce her to Stitches Central, the people at Evertote. It would be delightful. So the rocking chair stitcher, I hope you'll give her a little bit of your time. Further whips. Okay, I'm finished with that pile. So that means I am down to my last whip, which is the one that everybody likes to see. So I did earlier say I have actually had my marking period without stitching on my stained glass owl. But I did keep stitching for a few days after my last Flosstube because my exams got hung up in Toronto, and I actually had to give them a little pinch and say, if you want me to get these marked, you need to send them to me. And then I lost a week of my marking time because they hadn't sent them out of the main conservatory. So I was able to work during that period of time, and I actually surpassed the 100,000 stitches mark, which I consider just amazing. And here we are with my stained glass owl. So you can see I'm all the way over here. I've got the curve of the stained glass window, which is going to be circular. It's coming down. We've got the center is around here, so I'm getting more of the feathers going. And previous to that, I had gotten his talons in. I still have the goal of doing 100 to 200 of the confetti stitches before I settle into something like a feather that has a whole bunch of one color, or a window that has a whole bunch of one color. And in that way, I don't end up with all the confetti left over, which I would find frustrating. So I have gotten some of this in, and that will be my goal, is to working on his cheek feathers. I think those are his cheek feathers for the next time that we are together. But I'm super pleased, and I did miss him. So I will be coming to him with renewed excitement because of that break. Now, I'm not sure if you've noticed that I've got something that looks like the word Canada on me. And if I stand up a little bit, Canada Swaps. Now, this is a t-shirt designed by my second child. He's doing more things for me. He's making my logo into a stitchable element so that I can make a name tag with my logo on it. So let's talk about Canada Swaps. You will remember that back in March and April, myself and the two base stitchers were teasing that we were going to have something, a big announcement, and then there was a catastrophic event in Michelle's life that we just needed to step back and give a little space to a bit of recovery. And then it turned out that during the time she was recovering, 3 people in my family required a surgeon's attention. So yeah, May was a challenging month on many ways. So I want to thank those of you who I've reached out to for your patience, because you probably were wondering, well, what's going on? You said there'd be an announcement. Well, today's the day. So we are naming this Canada Swaps, and I'm going to pop on my glasses. I had a lovely chat with Michelle yesterday, and I'm hoping that I get all the information to you, and in time you will be seeing another floss tube of the 2 base stitchers. It's a matter of getting back to having time for stitching. Not so much making the video, but having something to show. So the 2 base stitchers are Sheryl and Michelle, and They are from out east in the PEI, Prince Edward Island range, which means, of course, we're not the same time zone, but that's just the way it is. So this is going to be a smalls exchange, and we are doing it amongst Canadians. There are a few events that are already alive and well in the United States, and there are certainly people that are hesitant to become part of an event where a significant amount of cash needs to go into the posting of what they make. The box that I received from Kathy came priority post. She invested in getting it to me safely. And I thank you, Kathy. But we are aware that it's sometimes somewhat easier if you swap within the same country. So we're doing a Canada swaps. So it's a smalls exchange, which means that we are inviting you to stitch something that is a pattern that will be 6 inches or smaller at the end. Now you are welcome to do this in many ways. You can take a bigger pattern and do it on a very tiny count to make it down to less than 6 inches. You can take just a portion. But the one thing we're going to say is that the theme for this time, not every time, but for this time, is Canadian designers. So we are inviting you to find a Canadian designer to celebrate and stitch, and have it in the mail by Labor Day weekend. I will be doing a short video that will come up in YouTube Shorts to hopefully summarize this as well, and I will be reaching out through direct messaging to those that I have already said, do you think you would be interested in doing this? I am delighted that Fibers and Floss Canada, Cinematic Stitches, Samantha the Huga Stitcher, oh my goodness, there's so many people, and I'm going to be missing them. Those are the ones that just sort of at the top of my brain for who I reached out. Actually, Carolyn of Evertote is going to join in as well. So we did reach out to some Flosstubers, but we want to open this to everyone in Canada. Ultimately, once we get to September, we will be having some Zoom meetings so that we can get to know each other personally. The summer is looking a little bit busy in general, and with different people being away, we've decided it's best to just wait until September for the Zooms. But if you just can't wait and you want to take part in this and want to stitch with me, reach out to me via email and we will arrange a Google Meet. So if you are taking part in this, you need to reach out to the.stitching.owl695@gmail.com. We'll be somewhere around here. And let me know, hi, my name is, and I'm wanting to take part in the swap exchange. Yes, Samantha, I will still finish yours if you get the stitch done and go, oh my. Just mail me the stitch, I'll finish it for you. But I actually think you're going to discover you can do it yourself. Yeah. And I will bet that Erika will go, no, she can do it herself. I'll help her. Often they get together sometime in the summer, so maybe they could do it together. So you'll be sending me your snail mail address and your name. And I would want to know, I'm going to say, let me know by July the 10th. So that gives you about a month to let me know that you're wanting to do this. You still have longer than that to do the stitch. And remember, it can be small. Like, it doesn't even have to be 6 inches. Most of mine are not 6 inches big. The small does need to be fully finished. With regards to the question, do we include anything else? You saw earlier that I received an amazing swap with regards to my swap with Sandi with a lot of items. What we're going to do is suggest that we're going to keep it a little bit smaller. That box was truly amazing to open. But in our attempt to perhaps keep the mailing fees a little bit lighter and just concentrate mostly on the stitch, we're going to suggest capping the purchase of extra elements at $10 Canadian. So a couple flosses, some floss drops that you make yourself, but you also can just send singly the stitch. What else? So pattern is Canadian. Finish in any way you like, but remember it's three-dimensional. It's harder to send in the mail. Then you need a box. Mail by Labor Day. I am going to suggest that when you mail it to the partner, that I will provide you with the name of who you're sending it to around the end of July, and their address, that in the package you send, you include a small card that also has your email address, so that a word of thank you can be given. I'm also going to ask you to take a picture before you send it off and email me the picture. I would like to work with Michelle in having a short video where we show a picture of each of the exchanged items. And as such, if you send us the picture before you send it off, that would be ideal. To be cautionarily sure, when you receive something, take a picture of it and send me that as well. And in that way, if you do like I did on my first swap, where I sent it off and then went, oops, I didn't take a picture, then yes, then we have it from the other person. So at this point, I'm just going to say, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, a Canadian designer, there are a lot of designers out there that are Canadian. And indeed, if you have an idea yourself, if you're Canadian, that's a Canadian designer. But to name just a few available, we have Darlene Dion, The Tiny Modernist, Pigeon Coop Designs, The Rocking Chair Stitcher, Jeanette Douglas, Erin Elizabeth, Shannon Christine, and Ellen Reed, to name a few of the available Canadian designers that you can utilize. With all of the stitch-alongs that I am involved with, I do encourage you to take a picture occasionally of what you're doing and to post it in Instagram. The person who's going to receive your small does not know that if they are looking at the one they're going to get or one they'll never see. So don't fear actually putting pictures up. It's still going to be a surprise. So hashtag Canada Swaps is going to be our hashtag. And I'm going to write that down because I never said that to Michelle yesterday. Hopefully she agrees that's exactly right. And then if you could also tag the Stitching Owl and Bayside Stitcher 70, it will allow us to actually keep track of those items as they're being stitched, and we can support you and like your efforts and everything. We can have all sorts of fun. Now, am I finished? Well, not quite. And at this point, Kim the Contented Needleworker is going to go, Karen, what are you doing? That's a lot of starts. And I'm going to go, yes, this next week, Wednesday, will be my last day of a truthful teaching day. And I want to celebrate having more stitching time by having more stitching time. I will continue to do to work with teachers as they ask for a little bit of my time and teaching how to teach, but I will be for the most part retired. And as such, because I'm retiring right before July, yes, you guessed it, I have another Christmas stitch along. So this is going to be, hang on, where did I put it? You will see a sign that says Cookie Cutter Christmas Sal, and it is this booklet, which is an It's So Emma publication released at the Fat Quarter Shop. There are 10 ornaments in here. They show them finished in tart tins, but as you know, there are many ways to finish a round ornament, so you do not have to purchase the tart tins unless you want to. So with this, we are going to be starting this pattern on July 1st, and when I say we, I am excited to say Allison of the AZ Family Zoo, who's on Flosstube, Instagram, as well as having an Etsy shop with products like project bags to purchase as well as designs. Allison is doing this with me, and I'm so pleased. Thank you, Allison, for being willing to do this when I reached out to you. Really love it. So here you would tag the photos on Instagram with Mrs._AZ Family Zoo, and of course the Stitching Owl. There's no specific goal. If you want to do one a year for the next 10 years, that Sal will stay awake. It's going to be live. If you want to do one a month instead of one a year, you can do one a month. If you want to do 2 a month starting in July, you would be done the 10 for Christmas. And July, August, September, October, November. So that would mean you're stitching to the end of November, and you would have the beginning of December to do your fully finishing. If you did more than 2 a month, you would get to the fully finishing a little bit earlier and might be able to decorate following Thanksgiving. I'm using the American Thanksgiving time, which is about the 3rd week of November. Although I admit that some of us in Canada start eking out a few of the Christmas items. Ours is the 2nd weekend of October, so we're ahead of the Americans on that. So these are quite small. It's DMC and so some of these are 28 by 28. Actually, they're all 28 by 28. So that means these will work up in a night. So some people might actually get all 10 done in the month of July. I sort of hope I do, but I'm not going to stop stitching my owl. I'm going to finish my dragon. It won't be the only thing I do, and so I'm not going to promise that I'm going to do all of them in July, but it's a potential happy dance. So there are my stitch alongs. Now, if you happen to want to have the help of assignments, you can do on Facebook the Magazine Monthly Cross Stitch Challenge. Their theme this month is To the Parade, and then the acrostic is Float. So it's not a really long example this time, Not sure what I'm going to do for the theme of parade. I'll think of something. But as you know, I've got an entire alphabet for my owl. And I am going to actually, after this video, take my start photo for the first time for my Magazine Monthly Club, for my Stitching by the Shore I Spy Challenge. I'm going to invite you to actually hunt up Stitching by the Shore. Laura recently did a video release extra where she goes through the different prompts for the I Spy in June and explains how she's approaching each one of them in case you look at something and go, huh, I don't know, whatever I do with that. So that I'd invite you to look up that. And then Crafts and Books always has an acrostic. This will be the first time I am involved with it. And their acrostic is the word solstice, which is perfect because we're going to have the longest day of the year in June. That is if you're in the upper hemisphere. If you're watching this from Australia or South America, it's not going to be the longest day, it's going to be the shortest day, but it's still a solstice. And my last shout out for the day is Home of the Wildflowers. Christina is a lovely presenter, and after a little bit of back and forth, I discovered that she lives in Ontario as well. I believe the Toronto area. She owns the Sweet Violet Stitch Company on Etsy, and she is starting to, I shouldn't say starting because she's got quite a few on there. She is charting full coverages that, as she says, they're not like 500 by 500 and 600 by 600. They're a little bit more modest, but they're still full coverage. When I looked, they were in the 200 to 300 range, most of them. Many beautiful patterns are there. And as a matter of fact, I am thinking that maybe my next full coverage for After the Owl will be from her shop. So therefore, I wanted to share her information with you. And of course, I will link all of these people below. If for some reason I forgot to include a moment for the swap from Sandi's swap, I will pop it in. Hello, I am here to say, oh my, I have been spoiled again. I am part of the group that gets together twice a month with Sandi on her Zooms. Sandi is of Stitchin' with Sandi, and about 4 times a year she provides us with a swap opportunity. And a couple months ago she announced a swap with the theme of summer. I have received my box and want to say, Kathy, wow, you have certainly spoiled the owl. So I wanted to show that we were to create a stitch that had something to do with summer. So I've got a beautiful flat fold, flip-flop days. Is that not adorable? And she included the pattern so I can have fun stitching this for someone else. Now I really like that she found some very special buttons to include on the stitch, and she managed a full flat fold with beautiful batik material to utilize for the rest of that make. Now she generously included in my box, which was a sizable box, oh my Kathy. Again, my husband was like, what did you order this time? And I'm like, no, I didn't. Hang on, where's it from? So she included more, but the balance of the material from what she made for me and the other batiks in a fat quarter bundle because she knows that I love to do my finishes. So that is fabulous. Did she include anything else? Why, yes, I'm sure you're noticing what I have in my hand. This is a hat that actually folds down and is completely reversible. Look at that. So I don't know whether Kathy has figured this out just by watching my Flosstube, but I am a very fair-skinned person, a gift from my parents, and my skin has two colors, white and red. So I either am sunburnt or I am pale. So when we recently went to Peely Island, I took this hat because this arrived the day before we left. And I used this while I was waiting for my husband to do his 21K run. And I can say that it actually protected my entire face, ears, and the back of my neck. Many hats do some of that, but not all of that. This one did both. And it even has a strap for each color so that you have, if you have a windy day, you can keep it on your head. And just to let you know, I also had included some mauve chenille for a special finish. I have an ecru dinky dye, anchor floss, this will definitely come to use, a delightful pin cushion, and this round of lace that I think can be used in multiple ways, and I'm looking forward to being creative with it. Last but not least, a thermal jug with a delightful summer theme. So thank you so much, Kathy. I truly appreciate the thought that you put into this. I will send you a thank you note. Bye-bye for now. And if you saw it earlier, we are now on to a moment for music where I'm going to do something I have not done before. I am not going to introduce what I'm playing. I will say it's a medley of, I think, 4 pieces. And that when I learned these pieces first, I was very young. I both sang and played. So what I'm going to invite you to do is, as you listen, try to name that tune, and in your comment below, give me the titles of the pieces that you recognize, and maybe the overall book that it would be from, book/presentation. So I'm going to go on to the moment for music here, and thank you. So thank you for coming to be with me today. I value the time we have together and look forward to being able to make this presentation throughout our time apart. I know that for many of you, cross-stitching is for you what it is for me. It's therapy, it's peace, it's beautiful, it's so many things. And many times it's gifts that come from the heart. Now, I'm careful who I give my gifts to. I want it to go to somebody that actually appreciates the time I put in, and I know that each of you do this too. So for now, though, it is time for us to part. And I thank you for the gift of your time. I hope that you had fabric, floss, and needle in hand as you watched, and that as you made something, you made yourself happy. Best wishes for the next 2 weeks. I'm going to actually say best wishes for the next 9 or 10 days. And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye for now.